Ravage, attack. Oh, Ravage.
Okay, people, today we're going to build and then take a quick look at the Flame Toys Furai Model Transformers Model Kit Soundwave. And I think I've said this the last few times that I've put together a model kit. It's been a while since I've put together a model kit. I am not an expert at building these by any means. In fact, if you're an experienced model builder and you're watching this video, you're probably going to go, what the hell is he doing? Now, why would he do that? This guy's an idiot. I only jumped into model kits when Bandai started doing those Star Wars figure type models, and I enjoyed the hell out of those, but they don't make many of those anymore. And I've tried figure kits from other companies. The Dragon Ball, which I think was Bandai, and there was a Buzz and Woody, and I didn't care for Woody so much that I never built Buzz. And then I've done a Transformers one, the Furai Model Skywarp. And at the time, I thought, oh, well, that's cool. I put it up on the shelf. But now that I've pulled it back down and messed with it a little bit, it's not the greatest. But this right here is Soundwave. Soundwave's my favorite, so I had to grab it. Plus, it looks cleaner, not as stylized as Skywarp. Soundwave. Nice art on the front, on the sides. Oh, same thing. And it doesn't show a lot there. But on the back, you get a look at the actual model kit, what's included. Big, nice close-up. First, we crack the shell. Then we crack the nuts inside. There's your blue sprues, gray and black, probably Ravage, and the joints. White sprues, yellow and red, and translucent? Oh, metallic. And then another set of blue sprues. Have some nice shiny decals or decals. And then a handy dandy instruction booklet that, oh no, I'm gonna have to get out my glasses, my peepers. But that picture kicks ass. It gives a very vintage toy feel while mixing in some cartoon maybe. I'm gonna attempt to film some of the build, but I'm not gonna go through the whole thing because nobody wants to see that, me fumbling around trying to look at these little itty bitty instructions, putting parts in wrong places, having to pull it back out, put it in the right way, hoping it's right the second time, and then eventually coming back a third time because that's how I build. But I'll hit the high points or any trouble spots I run into, and then we'll take a look at the figure at the end. Okay, they already tried to confuse me right off the bat with 2 exact C's and 2 exact B1s. I'm used to, you know, bigger sprues with all these parts on the same thing. But it makes sense with symmetrical robot parts, the arms, the legs being, well, okay, they're not going to be exact side to side, I guess. They're going to be mirror images. Yeah, we'll get to that. Ooh, and I get to use that shiny part right off the bat because that's the eyes. And the head always seems to be first with these kind of model kits. See? There's the head. 5 pieces just stuck together. And it reminds me of the toy. This won't transform, but it has that flat property to it. Like it folds down and then it becomes hidden, you know? I don't know. It's just giving me vintage vibes. Okay, the instructions are a little bit unclear, but not impossible. Right here, this S24 is a decal that goes on the outside of this piece. The line's just pointing up to it, and then you have to look at the part and go, well, that sticker is that shape. I guess it goes in there. So I had to think about it a little bit, which is hard sometimes, but we're getting it done. Okay, working on the shoulders, there's this piece and this piece, and it is a tight fit, and you have to get it straight up and down before it'll fit into it. So gotta use some force while keeping it straight and then get it popped in. And no, I don't care about this. I collect toys. I'm not looking for a perfect model kit. Tinted piece onto here, and it locks in with that arrow. And I'll be damned, it's an actual hinge. Look at that. I didn't know it had an action to it. It doesn't act like it locks into place. In fact, it springs open. Ta-da! Not as big as I thought it was gonna be, but it's still cool. Hopefully there's something that holds that shut because that may piss me off. Pretty standard hip setup at this point when it comes to model kits. There's 2 of these bars with the offset hoops on top. I'm gonna put one facing to the back of the crotch, and again, good grief, that is some tight fit. And you put the other one facing forward, and when you get them together, it looks like one solid bar across. It's straight. There's a note in the instructions, cut the remaining gates on blue circle positions, and it's pointing up here to the hips on both these pieces. That's because it was attached like this instead of like this, because I guess the hips are visible and they didn't want the white marks or whatever it's called. So you have to come back in here, cut it flush, or the pieces won't go together. For the rewind and the fast forward, the holes are D-shaped. So you can't just take it and push the triangle any direction. You have to actually look and see where the flat side is. I fought with that for way too long before figuring that out. Getting the crotch all together, it is solid. There is a metal bar running through the middle there that I didn't notice when I was pushing on the hip attachments or the hip bars. And putting it all together was a tough push. Jumping ahead a little bit, there's also hinges for these hip covers to get those up and out of the way. The hands are 3 pieces, which I'm not sure is completely necessary, but hey, it's a model kit. In the long run, I get cool robot parts. The shoulder piece, at first I thought, why did they complicate it so much? But it actually makes sense because there's your joint, at least the socket for your joint inside. Then there's 2 halves closing that up with 2 halves on top of that. And those meet right here. And then there's this other piece that slaps on in the middle and holds it together. So it's very structurally sound. Then you have these white pieces that plug in and look inlaid with the blue. It just feels a lot better than what I remember with Skywarp. Then there's the elbow part that as I articulate it, it kind of pops apart. So I'm hoping there's something that holds that together too. Or I may just have to take back what I just said about this. Oh, ye of little faith. Talking about myself. There is a sleeve that goes down over that and keeps those pieces together. Ooh, look at that. Plug a fisty hand in because that's what I like to start with. And then once again, it's pointing out a decal, but the thing goes down to the back. So SO6, which is shaped like that. I guess it goes right there. There. But thank you, Flame Toys, for not making this a sticker that had to be put in this trench all the way around the arm. That's actually a separate piece sandwiched between these 2 white arm pieces. And oh, it looks so much better like that. Not that there's anything wrong with shiny chrome decals, but oh man, this is so much better looking. It's easier. Throw it in there and go about my business of building another arm exactly like this one, just opposite. You have to pay attention because I got through the left arm, got down here to the right arm, and it starts kind of in the middle. Then I realized all the way up here, this says ×2. So I should have done that twice already, but now I can do that, kick into here, or well here, and then build the rod arm. Something I didn't realize, and thankfully I put it together right the first time, but this sleeve that goes down over the elbow, there's a deeper cut that goes to the front and a shallower cut that goes to the back. That way it allows for more range. Starting the legs, and I've got your number now instructions ×2 on these top ones. So it's the same up top, then you get to the left and rights down bottom. Something else you may run into, and it took me a minute to figure this out. This hole is countersunk. Then you have this peg, and it has this ridge at the end. The first time I tried to put this together, I didn't realize it, and it went to there. And I tried to put the other side on, and it didn't want to go together. That takes a lot of force to press in. So don't get discouraged. Just keep on pushing. Just keep on pushing. Keep on pushing. Okay, knee deep into the leg assembly. And I went to put the upper kneecap on, and I couldn't find the hole for that peg. There's nowhere. If you move the leg back, ta-da, it reveals the peg hole. Just plug that in and bring the leg back forward, and it kind of sandwiches in there. The other half on, line up all the peg. Oh, that was easy. And then you put all the kibble on. It says to put this front plate on first, and when you do that, you're going to have gap, and it feels kind of loosey-goosey. That is okay, because when you go to put the sides on, they actually slide under there. Under where? Under there. This goes next. Bring in a little yellow to the overall color scheme, and that has a shaped peg hole. There we go, right there. There's a blue cover to lock all of that in. I'm guessing it slipped. Oh, did I get it? Right there to make that all seamless. Then another cover for the outside to make the leg even chonkier. But pops right on. A couple more decals to go on. That one's pointing right where it needs to go. And S20 is actually 6 separate stickers. That's not fair. Putting the cannon together. Again, there's a separate red ring that just goes onto it. You plug the end on, but it only comes with the shoulder cannon. No gun for him to hold, which is okay, I guess. He can stand back and just give orders and look badass. That was a tight pop, but it's gonna stay together. Oh, look at that. The hip flaps swing up so I can get in there, and hopefully it won't be a problem to attach these. Okay, there's a pop to it. but it takes some force. It's a bit nerve-wracking. Arms are any... Oh, they're not going to be easier. In fact, that arm joint's running away from me. What the hell? This assembly moves up and down. If I can... Okay. Let's get the... Oh, shit. That's not good. Head out of the way. Hold that solid. Okay. Whew, Flame Toys. I appreciate it being solid and all the joints holding together super tight, but come on. You gotta give us some wiggle room in order to actually get it together. No, I still have to do this side. Son of a... Oh, God. Fuck me. Oh boy. Woo! Walk away from it for a minute and compose myself. It didn't come with the tape, so there's no reason for this. This sucks. Yes, that's me composed. It looks like there's slides on the side to hold something. Sorry, no, that's getting glued. I have no more patience for it. I can't stand it constantly popping open. But hey, there's still Ravage to build. Woohoo! Something to watch out for on Ravage. As you can see, if you look at the right angle, there's just dumbbell joints for the legs. The main body part is thin, and you can see the length of those. So when you push these in, there's a tendency for it to go all the way through. The first one I did, I could see the ball joint almost coming out the other side, and I thought, how the hell am I supposed to get this other leg in? In that case, you have to pull it back out until it pops into this side. If you go too far, it's a bit loosey-goosey. When you get it into the correct position, it's solid. I'm also not sure if I got this neck piece right. Here, it looks pretty good, but you come down, it gaps up a bit, but it has to be that way for it to do this. And there's not really any great close-up shots. In the instructions, it's kind of angled like this. And hey, just do the best you can. But getting into the actual figure review, because I've finished everything at this point, we're going to take a look at Ravage first, because he's in my hand. Some nice little details thrown in, like these circles on the legs, like it's actual joints instead of just pegs plugged into holes. Gives it kind of a mechanical feel. Like I mentioned, the body is pretty thin, but there's some detail there too. It has... Well, I guess those are kind of like the guns that should go out here on the original toy. And up here, I'm calling this a camera of some kind because I'm fighting the urge to call it a handle where Soundwave can just carry Ravage like luggage. And then the yellow eyes were already painted onto the head, which I appreciate because those would have been small little itty bitty stickers. Then there's some fangs showing, a bit ferocious, even at this scale. Not bad in the articulation department either. There's a ball joint at the end of the neck by the head, and then there's a ball joint where the neck meets the body. You can get down into running position or up looking around. It's so small, I'm trying to keep my thumb out of the way, but it can look side to side. And then of course ball joints can turn. The dumbbell joints at the legs allow for forward and back and some down and some up and rotation. There's also a pin at the middle of the leg and a pin at the paw even. And that's the same for all four legs, so you can get into most poses that you want to do. He can be down creeping around or leaping, which kind of reminds me of the original toy packaging, I think. Some kind of art from there. It does gap up in places because of the joints, because of the dumbbell joints. So you have to kind of move stuff around and hide that, but it's better than I thought it'd be. Oh, and can't forget, the tail is also on a hinge, so it goes up. Oh, it comes all the way around. Then there's the main attraction, the main man himself, or at least I think it's the main man himself, Soundwave, the figure. I did put every decal on, and it gives it a little bit of oomph. The shiny parts reflecting back at you catch your eye, but doesn't detract from the overall figure. It enhances. And they're not perfect. You can kind of see I got too close to the edge right there, but I'm old and shaky and caffeinated most of the time. I like how it gives a little splash of color in them. Well, okay, I say color. It's a bit purplish, but it breaks up all this blue. Have this one to break up the blue abs. One on the back of the shoulder cannon. Oops, looks like I missed one. Dang it. Yep, there it is right there. Missed it. Bigger than hell. I never do these perfect the first time. I always have to come back and fix something. These chromey ones do a lot to spruce up the back of the legs, and then there's even these down at the back of the feet. And I barely missed with the Decepticon symbol, but I didn't want to keep putting it on, peeling it off. It kind of gives me flashbacks to when I was a kid and you had to put all the stickers on, and they were never ever perfect, at least not in my house. So that gives me nostalgia tugs. Then there's these on the outside of the arms, and I hate it when a sticker covers actual sculpt work because it never conforms down into the ridges. But I wanted to put it there because it's shiny. But it's not just about the decals. There's also a lot of nice sculpt work here. And some of them add to the nostalgia factor. Like, remember the switch on the original toy and the fake knobs for turning up the radio when he's in that mode? There's also a little of that on the back of the feet. This gets my attention on the back though. Very intricate, very innards looking. Like we're looking into his actual back, his insides, what makes a Transformer tick. Have these up on the shoulders and some vent looking things. Again, calling back to the original design. To add to the thickness and break up some of the plainness, there's also all this on the outside of the leg. It didn't need to be there because there's a lot of smooth parts too, but I'm glad it did because it's a nice contrast from top to bottom. The eject button and a little bit extra detail there and up on top of the arms, and when I was putting it together, I guess that's split. You gotta push it back. Then there's the head, and I think I touched on it, but very original toy-like. It's got that flatness to it that makes you think it's going to transform, even though this doesn't transform. Those metallic eyes are awesome, though. The proportions skew away from my G1 loving heart, but at the same time, I also like it because I've had a few Soundwaves. It's nice to have something a little bit different. It's mostly the size of the head, and then you get to the arms and the legs, and oh, it thickens up quite a bit. And then the hands are downright huge in comparison to the head, but again, it gives it a nice stylistic feel. The colors are also very, very clean. You have that dark blue to kind of tone things down because then you have the bright white just jumping out at you. That's what's bringing you in. It's drawing you in. It's looking at the overall piece. Then you have the strips of red breaking things up along with that yellow that ties up to here. And it's Soundwave. This just completely works for this character. There's a ball joint at the top of the neck going up into the head, and then another one at the bottom of the neck going into the body. And that runs into my first stress point right off the bat because they have the neck in two pieces, and as you move it around, the front likes to pop off, and there's not a lot you can do with the head on it. So you have to disassemble it, take that back off, let that fall out. And am I going to get a little bit of glue and put it on there because I'm sick of putting it back on? That's exactly what I'm doing. To hell with that. You're stuck. That can look up and look down and do some tilt and then turn side to side. Putting the shoulder cannon back on, that's on a hinge so you can bring it down and up about that far. And that goes up that far to get out of the way of the hinge at the shoulder that comes up to, well, okay, I'm still hitting it on the left. It comes all the way up. There's also a horizontal hinge in there on the peg where you can bring the arm forward and back. There's a hinge outside of that at the shoulder, and then this cover piece also rotates out of the way, so you can do this. You can go anywhere with that joint. It also swivels all the way around. Swivel at the bicep. Double elbow, a little bit blocked by the forearm piece, but you can, oh no, I'm a liar. Look, it goes all the way up. Hand is on a ball joint, but because of the shape, it doesn't get a lot of up and down. Doesn't matter where you put it. It's going to run into the sleeve piece, but it gets some nice in and out. Ball joint at the mid-torso, ball joint at the waist, so there is some crunch to it, and a lot of arc back, and some tilt, and some tilt, and some rotation. For the hips, like most model kits, there's a lot going on here. There's a peg going out, but it's on a hinge, so you can drop it down and then come forward. Problem is, the crotch doesn't get out of the way, so you got to kind of finagle around until you get up to here, back to here, and then out. And like I pointed out during the build, the hip piece gets up and out of the way and allows for this. Then back to neutral position, you just push back up into the body. There's also a swivel there. Double knee, and if you do the bottom joint first and then the top, he can kick his Decepticon ass. Hell, he can kick his Decepticon back. The knee cover is also on a hinge, so if you have it all the way back, you can still close it up. But as you're coming forward, it kind of falls back into place, and then look at that. That's nice. Down at the foot, when it's in this position, pushed up into the leg, the hinge and ball doesn't get a lot of movement. You can get forward and back a little bit, but there's no tilt. It runs into the blue parts. But like I mentioned, there is a hinge and a ball, and that works beautifully when you drop it down. You can get some back and some forward and all kinds of tilt. That's for extreme posing, getting those legs way out there. But then you get back to neutral position, you just kind of push it forward and back into the leg, get it positioned right. There you go. There's even a toe joint on a model kit. That's awesome. For accessories, there's 2 fists. There's 2 open but slightly clenched hands, and then 2 pointers with that stylized Transformers back bend to them. Size-wise, Soundwave stands at about 6 1/4, and Ravage stands at about 1 1/4 inches. Like I said way back at the first, the only other Flame Toys Transformers model kit I've built is Skywarp, so here's those 2 together. You can see a definite style difference. Skywarp is very angular, thin in places, whereas Soundwave, they went for blocky, they went for thick, and if I had a choice, I will pick this any day of the week. And it's not just because it's Soundwave. I just like the look. This surprises me. As I was building this, I couldn't help thinking that it was going to be smaller than Hasbro Transformers, but no, it's essentially the same size. Getting to proportions though, the model kit seems thicker, and it is. In the limbs, you get to the chest, of course that's different, because the Hasbro version actually has a use for the door opening instead of it just popping open for no reason. And then of course I have the battle damage versions, the first releases of Megatron and Soundwave in the modern era, and this really stands out. It's clean, it's bright. So I don't think this is going to replace this Soundwave in this display, but it's Soundwave, and I like having multiples, different versions to stick in different places, so I'm still happy with this. So at the end of the day, I am happy to have this Soundwave, but it was a bit of a bumpy road. Don't get me wrong, the final figure is much more solid than Skywarp. Now that I've had it out even longer, the knee pads like to pop off. There's a floppiness to it. The knees are a little bit loose, especially on the left. It's not terrible. I can still get it back into, well, okay, there we go, back into position and standing up, but it's not as fun to play with as this. But even that took a little extra elbow grease, like on the neck where I had to glue the 2 halves together. Probably do the same with the bottom of the feet. So I appreciate it being solid and tight at the end, but whenever I was trying to get the shoulder pegs and the hip pegs in, that was a little bit nerve-wracking. A little bit maddening even. Things popping out of place just go in, out. And the instructions could be a little more elaborate. I understand wanting to save paper and space, but I'm not a youngin' anymore. Could be bigger, but that can be overcome with glasses and spectacles, you know what I mean? More than that, I wish they had a couple of more views of some of these parts just to show exactly what's going on. Not the decals going, hey, it's somewhere around back. You figure it out. At the same time, it wasn't super difficult. I didn't have a lot of problems with it. I just wanted to grop about something else before getting back to, man, this looks good. The final product is amazing. I've already talked about all of it, but the way the decals shine from the bright colors and the dark colors, everything just works. And yes, Soundwave is holding Ravage's tail in the leaping position, but at this angle, it really does look like jumping out. So yeah, there were some speed bumps, but I still love putting model kits together. That's half the fun. It's almost a process of discovery. Even though people have done it, people designed it. For me, I look at the parts in the sprues and go, what's that gonna look like? And then as it comes together, I'm like, that's what it looks like. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Fwoosh.